I think you just have to pull it.
No, it does turn, because I came in that way,
Okay.
and
Every other
I
time.
got this, and I just turned it, and it
I think
opened
it's,
it my way.
It is tricky.
I think they're
I turned
toying,
this funny thing at the top of the handle when it came in. Was that the alarm?
they're toying with us.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how are you? You got my coat on.
You know, Kathy.
The band's back.
She's on there.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. TriTown meeting, Wednesday, September 6, 2017 at 7 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. We've been on hiatus, I think, since April. So we have a short, just have 2 agenda items, but before that, should we do introductions for everybody at home?
I'm Don Long, the Bolton Town Administrator.
I'm Jonathan Keep. I'm selectman for the town of Bolton.
I'm Steve Saris, Selectman Lancaster Chair.
Walter Sandrowski, Lancaster Selectman.
Don Hawks, Stowe Selectman.
Are we gonna go around the room? Brooklyn, she's superintendent of schools. Lorraine Romasco, Bolton School Committee.
Okay, Cody Ann, Lancaster rep to the school committee.
Steve Rubenstein, Stowe rep to the school committee.
Neil Darcy, Bolton rep for school committee.
Julianne North, Stowe rep for the audit advisory.
Brian Boyle, Bolton Advisory Committee.
And Ken Troop, Bolton Advisory Committee, among other things.
And Neil, Stowe and Bolton Independence.
Welcome. So the first item is a discussion about Lancaster and Stowe sharing liability related to the SRO. So I put this on the agenda. And the student resource officer is kind of a new position, a newer position, and I feel like it's, you know, we're learning things and developing it over time. And I guess what I wanted to discuss is, you know, kind of updating the agreement the 3 towns have to share the costs related to this school resource officer, specifically related to you know, potential liability and, you know, legal defense related to lawsuits. So we have $1 million in insurance for, you know, situations, you know, like lawsuits. That's what Don has told me. But then anything beyond that would not be covered. And then there's the issue, you know, I think I don't know if you're experiencing this, but our expenses for town council have, I think they've definitely gone up this last year, and so there's definitely a concern about, you know, potential lawsuits and the expense of defending them.
How does that pertain to the first item, the expense on legal? Is it legal associated with the school?
Yeah, it would be, you know, if we had, because the school resource officer is hired by the town of Bolton, you know, if there were an incident, you know, a use of force incident, and, you know, the student's family decided to sue, you know, you know, the town would have to defend itself. So it's sharing the costs related to that defense.
So this is potential, not existing. I thought I heard
potential. Yeah, it's
budget was
potential.
not, but potential.
Now, just to be clear, Stan, we did have an extraordinarily high legal expense in our FY17 legal budget, but none of it was pertaining to the SRO.
I was just trying to find out how they mesh.
Mhm.
Apparently they don't. But we unfortunately have the same disease as well with expenses on beyond. But we had three unions to negotiate with too, which didn't help the process for that 30-year loop. So that's also part of the puzzle.
Sorry.
What is that noise?
We're talking about
What are you suggesting? Do you have any specific numbers or proposal, or how this might be done? Would it be done with an intermunicipal agreement, or what?
Well, we already have an agreement, and so it would be updating it to take into account these, you know, potential expenses if we had.
Well, Stan just asked, what agreement are you referring to?
I'm assuming that we have an agreement about how the school resource officer is paid for by the 3 towns.
We do, I mean, it's paid for through the assessment. The school district covers roughly half of the expense. Half of the 180 days worth of labor, and then whatever percentage of fringe is appropriate to that. And then, and of course, that in turn gets passed out through allocations, just as anything does from the school district. And then Bolton bears the expense of the other half, because when school's not in session, we use the officer who is the school resource officer in other ways.
This is a Bolton police officer that's the SRO, correct?
Yes, I think that's part of the state
So
statute.
from what I understand, he's already covered by insurance provided by the town for liability and,
Yeah, he's covered up to $1 million.
but I mean, no matter where he is. He could be on the road getting a
Right.
ticket, or he could be working
Right,
at
but it
the
would
shoulder.
lawsuits related to the specific function of the school resource officer. I think we would want, to share those costs. So that is the concern. So there isn't an agreement
There is an agreement with the school district about
how
the
that,
absorption of those costs. But as far as what you're talking about, liability over $1 million, there is no agreement anywhere that deals with that.
yeah.
But as far as the allocation of the expense, there is an agreement.
Has there been any investigation of the expense going beyond $1 million? And I don't know what's enough, but
Well, there are a lot of, I think most of the settlements are made out of court, because I can't find any, any money amounts. But if you go online, there are a lot of newspaper articles about these type of lawsuits, so it just seems,
Can we just
prudent.
clarify one thing, that we have not had those incidents at the high school? As I don't want people to get the wrong impression that we have those incidents at the high school, and we haven't. I think what you're referencing is other districts and what they've seen. Is that correct?
yeah, other districts have had
Okay.
lawsuits. We
Thank
don't
you.
currently have one.
Nor
So-
have we in recent past, at least in my tenure. So
Ever.
thank you.
Ever.
We've never. Thank you. Just want to make sure we can.
Yep.
Thank you.
So if the salary's already taken care of, you'd just be looking at increasing the limits of liability and having that shared, is that what I'm trying to say?
No, it would just be an agreement that if there's a lawsuit related to the school resource officer and the court, delivers a verdict that, fines the town over the $1 million, that would be shared. And also, as part of that, there would be a legal defense, and that would be shared in thirds.
Would this have to, would it go back to an intermunicipal agreement? Is that the only way you could do something like this?
I would presume it would be an IMA.
would not, one of the first things to look at if we're concerned about the amount of coverage for liability on the effect, when we look for a policy that increases that? Rather than worry about after $1 million and then we all dip in our pockets 1/3 and, right. I don't know, I just thought it's never happened. I mean, we're talking, it could, it proposed, possibilities, potential, I guess is a better word, so why wouldn't we investigate additional coverages if it's concerned? Are we in line with the rest of the schools in the Commonwealth in terms of liability coverage? I don't know, these are all questions I don't have answers to. How do we discern that? I guess we talk to our insurers, and they should hopefully have the expertise to know that $1 million should cover it. But maybe $2 million will be a very small premium. I don't know if it's needed. But I think further input would be helpful in making a decision. I don't see us, my town agreeing, our board agreeing that we open up the door and just say whatever happens over $1 million, we divide by 3. I just don't see that as being a realistic approach to, as I see this, potential.
I think we've had previous TriTown discussions where the boards of selectmen have said that the school resource officer was important, and that if there were concerns about these types of liabilities, that, some selectmen said that, they felt that it was important to share in those. So, the state statute says that, the town that the high school is in needs to, the school resource officer needs to come from that police department. So that's how we find ourselves in this situation. This is just planning ahead so that we're all protected, and we're all, supporting this position equally. But, I'm open to looking into, I don't think it's the school insurance. I think it's it's our insurance specifically for the police department, or is it the whole?
It's police officer liability. It's a
Okay.
line within, it's a piece of coverage within our town insurance.
That $1 million is the same for any officer in town.
Yes.
So, maybe, well, first off, has your board taken a position on this, or is this just your individual item at this point?
Well, this has come up at previous TriTown meetings.
That's not what I'm asking. I said, has your board of selectmen taken a position on this issue?
Previously, we have raised this as a concern.
Raising it as a concern and taking a vote to do something about it in my town is something different. Which is it?
Well, so this is the beginning of the discussion. We can vote on it. We can vote on it as a board of selectmen at another time. But this is just kicking off the discussion about these two issues. And yeah, I'm not sure why it's, you're sharing in the salary, why you wouldn't share in any potential liabilities.
I'm not prejudging it. I'm just saying, it's like trying to bite fog. There's nothing I can get my teeth into with what you're suggesting here. If you said, we've looked into this and for X thousand dollars, we could buy more insurance, and the board of state, we would like each of the three boards to go back and do it, I think that's what I would see coming out of an action item here.
Yeah, that would be,
But
yeah, the three towns working together towards that. That's what I'm proposing.
I just think we need more information, and I agree, I think I may have mentioned earlier, is what Don just expressed about finding out what's the additional cost for liabilities, and more importantly, find out what other towns, what other districts have in similar circumstances. There's gotta be some standards out there.
We can do, my office can do that.
I think gather info and please provide it at our next meeting, unless you can get it done now.
Let me check.
All right. No, I think that's,
I was just looking at, if I can ask, it's a district-related question. So if the insurance is going to be paid, it seems that it would be through the intertown agreement, and then that would be done through assessment, that then would then come through the school district. Whereas we pay a portion of the officer, that would be a portion that we would increase for the insurance payment. And I'm just wondering, that's where I'm formulating this question. So I'm just wondering why there would be the belief that use of force lawsuit would be any greater or any greater need with the high school versus anywhere else in town that it takes place.
Well, the officers, when they're on duty, stopping cars, they're working solely for the town of Bolton.
Sure, but
The
there's
school
a
resource
concern about-
officer is working for three towns
Sure.
when they're at the school. So
Sure, but we have
that's-
$1 million, so it's not that we're being asked to split the $1 million 3 ways, or through this part of the school district and part of the town. It's being $1 million and then going beyond that in case there's more money that's being asked for. But that same criteria is not being applied to the rest of the town itself. And I'm just finding that to be, and I'm being defensive of the school district, but it just seems like there's some sort of extraordinary reason why there'd be the assumption that lawsuits would be much more higher if it comes to the school district than somebody who is being sued for use of force during a traffic stop for the
Yeah.
town.
Yeah, so it's definitely worth looking into the amount of coverage we have related to other towns. But again, where the school resource officer is different is this is a shared position. Whereas, you know, our police departments do interact, but that's, you know, that's less of a, that's not a shared position. And, you know, Don told me that, you know, the school resource officer doesn't cost us anymore in terms of our insurance, that it's just kind of a blanket coverage for the whole department. So we're not asking for any money related to the insurance of that specific officer, because it's for the whole department.
And Neil, if I may, just procedurally, an intermunicipal agreement wouldn't have anything to do with the district. It would be, if there were one, it would be signed by the 3 towns, and any money changing hands would transfer between the towns. It would not flow through the district, nor would it hit the assessment.
Right,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you, that's good to know.
Great, so we'll work on getting more information about insurance costs. But in terms of, was there information you wanted about, you know, legal defense?
Just what, you're worried about limiting exposure of Bolton appropriately. As a representative of Stowe, my board would want to say, well, what are we being asked to assume as a portion of something, of what? It's just a number X, what's the number? So I think until we have something specific, it's premature to debate it much.
I'll ask our insurer for what the exponential not exponential, the additional cost would be of $2 million in coverage and $5 million in
I
coverage.
can't believe it's gonna be much. It's like when you buy homeowners and you get an umbrella policy, that's the smallest part of your insurance bill.
And will they allow you, because you're only in our school for 180 days, so are you gonna pay the additional coverage for the full year, or are you gonna pay just for the 180 days the school's in session? Will they allow you to do that? I mean, there's a lot of questions there.
But the amount may be so minimal that it may not be a big issue whether you're paying
If
50 or...
yeah.
And I don't see them saying, okay, it's on, now it's off, it's on, it's off. How about the days they're not in school? Want to factor those into?
So,
Facetious.
as our legal friends might say, it's de minimis.
De minimis, yeah, I agree.
Well, it's
You
your
don't know, but we-
decision, so y'all just go ahead and do what you have to do.
No, it's not our decision, it's town meetings.
Not my
decision.
decision.
No, we're all conjecturing, so we need
Yeah.
some hard data to
Yeah.
make decisions, I think.
And then we'll try to investigate what approach other towns have taken.
Please, yeah, I think it'd be helpful.
Great, thank you, Don. So the next is the TriTown meeting locations, and that's Lorraine
Thank
from
you.
Moscow.
I did ask to have that put on the agenda, and the reason that I asked is TriTown, although it started way before our time, was started to be able to discuss district-related issues with the 3 towns and the district. And I would like for us to invite the opportunity to have the school district included in the rotation of the meetings. For a couple of reasons. One is we're 4 independent boards, and I think it would be good for you folks to come to the district offices. You likely don't get there. It might be good for you to see what's going on. And not that I need to put a carrot out there, but I think our food is almost better than yours. So I can
Better than this.
ensure. You know what, I think it's lovely, it's a lovely gesture.
It was threatened, Lorraine, to have it at the International, is that true?
Absolutely not, I can't afford that, we don't have the budget for that. Sorry. So I'd like to, if you are amenable, to include the district in the rotation of the meetings.
I'm disappointed, I thought you were gonna say have it on Martha's Vineyard or something. You might try to-
Again, we do not have the budget for that.
So every 4th meeting
Sure.
would be
I mean,
where?
You could do it every 4th, or to make it easier for everyone, you could do, because I know we do Bolton, Lancaster, Stowe. We just go down 117. It's up to you if you want to do one in the middle, so that the Stowe people and the Lancaster people, you know, midway through can come to us. I don't care when it is. Because if we did Bolton, Lancaster, Stowe, and the district, you'd be in Bolton twice. Actually, that would work.
That works fine.
That works great, yeah.
So it'd be at Emerson?
Yes, in the district offices, yep.
You could even have it next month.
We could have it next month,
You might talk.
but then we'd be bumping Lancaster.
No, we'd be bumping stuff.
Stowe.
Oh, we'd be bumping Stowe.
It goes west to east, and then reverses.
Would you like to host next month
Well,
as you
let's
were?
come to a decision. I think it, I don't see any
I don't have a problem with that
disadvantage
at
of
all.
it.
I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. Great. So when do you want to do it?
Let's keep it.
You could surprise us.
Well, maybe,
Leave the doors open.
even though it's not an agenda item, it's an implied one. What's gonna be the date of our next meeting? That might have some impact. We're just getting geared up now.
And one more question, Lorraine, will
Yes.
the doors be open?
Yes, they will.
Unlocked,
If it's
yeah.
after
Unlocked.
6, the doors will be open.
You know, I'd like to throw into conversations to make this more confusing is, it'd be nice if we get our new town offices squared away in December, to have it in Lancaster for December. So if you can work those 2 meetings before then,
Oh,
get
that's
us,
good.
just to showcase the new,
In October in Stowe and November at the school district, we can do
yeah,
that.
that's whatever works on that, just to,
Well, it's assuming we're going, I guess we always said that during the school year, we try to set a tentative date for each month. There are times when I might have suggested, even though it's been since April, that an agenda of such limited magnitude as this one, not to demean any one discussion, but it might have been carried over to another. I mean, that's not to fault anybody for putting, frequently, the way this is loosey-goosey, the secretary of whichever board is hosting it puts out a call saying, anybody want to talk about anything? If nobody does, then we don't need a meeting. So I think any meeting, I would say, is subject to, we're not gonna get around and just say, gee, I'd like the color of your slacks, Larry. Although I do. But, you know, it doesn't make sense to have a meeting about when we meet next, and that's pretty much it.
Well, tentatively, the next meeting would be Wednesday, October 4th. It would be the first Wednesday if the school committee doesn't have a meeting that night.
We have one, the
No, we
13th,
don't.
the 27th, so no.
We don't.
Right. Thank you.
So October 4th will be at the school district?
Or Stowe, whichever
No,
you decide.
if you do it that way. 'cause
Do it in
that's
both?
what- that's,
Can we
yeah,
do it in the district? Okay,
Yeah, jump
across the
right in.
street.
thank
Really?
you.
It's gonna be at the district.
October
Yeah.
4th?
So that means we take grabbing agenda items and.
And might I suggest, it's such a radical change in our cement feet.
Change is good.
That we don't wait until a week before to tell people. You might stir some interest in coming.
Mm-hmm.
You get an early announcement, old date and new location.
should we plan a couple of months beyond that too, rather than
Yeah.
doing it meeting to meeting, or is that helpful to schedule?
Well, if we're saying Lancaster is in December.
No,
let's just-
No,
Stowe
Stowe is next
I'm
after
sorry.
the school district.
Yes, but the school is in October, Stowe is in November, Lancaster wants us there in December.
I concur, I was looking for the dates within each one of those months. Is that always the first Wednesday?
The
or-
goal is always the first
It
Wednesday.
doesn't always work that way, but that's the goal.
Yeah. Do you happen to have November the first, just like
That's
to throw some
Wednesday.
dates down here?
November 1st is a Wednesday.
November 1, yeah?
And to Don's point, you know, and we proved it tonight, if there's not enough for an agenda in October, then the district would still host, but it wouldn't be until November. I mean, we were the tentative host for months in a row, so.
Yeah,
So the
yeah, that's
location
the way it
will-
works. It just rides until the next meeting, and then it's to keep.
John,
it
what's in
safe.
December, please?
December, it would be, if we went with the first, it would be December 6th.
And November 1.
No, and we're at a
Yes.
conference, so we would have to do November 8th. The district, most of the school committee wouldn't be
That's
available.
a school committee meeting.
Oh, that's a school committee meeting, so we can't even do it the 8th. and they're not gonna, you guys don't wanna meet on the 15th. Well, you could meet on the 15th.
Well, there's times when we don't, we skip a month too, without, you know, some.
To be determined?
Yeah, that's the easiest before.
To be determined at the
before we
next
do
meeting.
it.
Easier to
right?
do it each
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
So we'll take October 4th, and thank you all, appreciate that.
That's right up here, right, Lorraine?
It is, and we'll put together, you know, information, tell you where to go, how to get there.
Don't,
We won't tell you what's on the menu, though.
you can tell us where to go.
Well, in a nice way,
With directions.
with directions.
Do we need a motion with that?
No, I think normally it's just an agreement.
Great. So are there any town announcements?
No, just kind of what I alluded to earlier, we're hoping that our building will be open by December. It's on schedule, within budget, and it should be a nice change from where we are. Most of you folks have attended the one down at the community center,
Mhm.
other than the pounds of basketballs and the screaming of children and agony of defeat. It's okay, but we'll do better. It'll be the top floor of the new building, the third floor. So accessibility will be there with an elevator. It should be very nice. We'll see.
Good.
I don't remember nothing else, Jonathan.
Still?
I have it's a future agenda request because it didn't make this one in time, but on Facebook and Bolton community site over the last 4 or 5 days, topic of the traffic flow of the high school came up, and it generated about 150 comments on there, which is pretty active for the particular page. And one of the things, they were asking a lot of questions that we were dealing with last fall when I think Selectman Keith had asked for a meeting at the high school. One of the things that I had told the people that were on there that I would request that maybe we can get this on the agenda to discuss sort of what happened at that meeting, because people were asking questions. So if we have like, if we're able to get like minutes or action items and what's been done, what kind of came out of that meeting and so forth, that we can actually, make public, I think that would help a lot of people that seem to have a lot of concern. People bringing up comments of rotary or whatnot, obviously, because the traffic is still crazy fast out there. And it's this fine dance that people are doing, going in and out of all these side roads and everything. So we're just waiting for the tragedy to happen.
Was there any remediation done whatsoever? We had a meeting last summer, and there was ideas of line of sight, putting up signs, increasing maybe breakdown lane type of thing.
I can give a very brief update. As far as line of sight and signage, we did do that. We trimmed back. As you come out of Green Road, we trim back to the left or the eastbound side. We cut back significantly on that. We did put up the extra signage that we said we would do, so we did that last fall. One update that I was going to give anyway, because I do know that there was some erroneous information posted in social media relative to the proposed safety zone for the high school. I had worked with DOT. They committed to provide us with engineering plans, which were the engineering plans that they used for Tohoto, but modified to fit our elevations out here. So they came out and shot elevations and so forth, updated the plans, gave them to us. They committed to creating some of the, if we need specific signs, they would create the signs in their shop. All the equipment that we need to make the safety zone happen is on order. We have figured out how to power the signs, and it's my hope, I don't have all the delivery information confirmed yet, but it's my hope that we will have that up and running in October. So it's not that the town is doing nothing, the town is doing quite a bit actually. Some people have made assumptions that we're not doing anything. And very quickly, there was a meeting on Complete Streets, and I won't get into what Complete Streets is all about. It's a state level program, and we're looking at doing some improvements through grant funds that can be gotten through the program. We had a meeting last week. I attended, Jonathan attended, as did many members of our Public Ways Safety Committee, as did our Chief of Police, as did our Town Planner, quite a few people at the meeting, and there is an idea that we're discussing, a concept, I guess is a better word right now, to erect something that would simulate a mini roundabout at that location, at Green and Forbush Mill, have it there for about 2 weeks and see how that works. Now, it's very much in the preliminary stages. It may not happen at all, but it's a concept that we're discussing. We would certainly, at the appropriate times, work with the school district and talk about impact to whether it's buses, traffic flow from the school, whatever. So there's a lot of ground to cover, but again, that is something that we're looking at. It's something we're considering testing. If it works, you know, it's possible that the selectmen could pursue engineering funds to get that designed, because obviously all the design work would have to be done before anything else is done. So again, it's on the town's radar screen. It absolutely is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that intersection has been a priority in all the reports written about 117, and I think I can say for the subcommittee that's working on complete streets, you know, the members agreed that it, you know, confirmed that it was the most dangerous intersection and a priority.
And
So
that
there's
was
a lot of
only-
public interest that's in this,
Yep.
and I think if you guys are able to bring some of that forward to the public, that would help you guys out a lot,
So
and sure would help a
this
lot of
came up
communities.
after the 3-car accident Friday.
It actually, ironically, it came up just before the
Okay.
3-car accident that happened out there on Friday.
Was that during the school hours, or?
I believe it was right after
Right
school.
after.
Yeah.
We're very careful to not get premature information out.
Mhm.
We don't want to have it reported incorrectly and set improper expectations. We want to manage the message. We want to be ahead of the game and make sure that we've got the right story to tell.
Mhm.
So that's why, you know, we don't normally talk about very preliminary things in public, because things can change,
Right.
but people hear the first message and expectations can be misset.
Mhm. Absolutely.
I think that's it.
Just other news, since we met much, one of the times that we have it in a meeting in Stowe, suggest maybe we could have it at our new community center, which has been opened within the last, well, it's really in full swing now, but it's just since the spring. And this was where we took the no longer needed Pompasiticus School, and after a lot of deliberation, whether we, all the way from demolishing it, selling it, warehousing it, it is now functioning as a combination community center and fire station. One of only 2 in New England that our fire chief was able to find, where you had those combinations. And some of us, when that idea was first floated, kind of had the idea of elderly folks on walkers dodging fire trucks, and it didn't seem to be compatible. But in fact, point of fact, that's not the case. You don't even know there's a fire station there unless the alarm goes off.
You don't have fires in Stowe, do you?
Lots of ambulance runs, but it's a remarkable facility. It's, those of you who aren't familiar with Pompasiticus, it was an open classroom concept, which was back in the 50s, I guess, was the new wave, and it just didn't work. My daughter went there, it was awful, just cacophonous all the time. But for renovation purposes, it was wonderful dealing with, because you didn't have to tear out of the interior. We had to put in some new steel in the back to make a high bays for the fire department. And I think it would be, we could arrange a little, you know, perhaps a tour a little before or after the meeting or something, show what you can do with some innovation. We would have spent $10 million on a fire station alone on the present site, and it would have been cramped. We spent under $10 million to do the whole thing. And we have community, the Council on Aging, Recreation Department, school nurse, the town nurse, part-time, the food pantry, separate entrance in the back for privacy. It's a nice facility. So We're glad to show it off.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. See it inside. Thank you.
Nothing else, I'd move to adjourn.
Second, if needed.
Don't have to do roll call. Executive session.